Brea, welcome to FrightFest. I mean, I feel like we know you so well.
I'm so. This is my first time, but I am so excited to be here, and I feel like this festival is my home without me ever being here.
We've shown practically every single one of your films. Yeah, whether you've written them, you've directed them, you've been in them.
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here finally.
So you're a FrightFest icon, even though, you know, you've just arrived. Now listen, let's talk first off about Night Sky, because that's the first film we're going to be, you know, talking about, and it's on tonight. So yeah, I mean, right, you made it 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So A, what's been the problem, and can you remember anything about it?
The remembering might be hard. No, I remember it was a very fun time with a bunch of friends going out and making a movie together. But we've had a global pandemic since then, so I think it just, you know, some things take a while, and it was also a micro-budget movie. I mean, this movie, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about the budget, but let's just say the crew was less than my immediate family, the number of my immediate family. It was very, very small. It was about 5 people in an RV and making this movie. So it just takes a long time to finish that kind of thing.
But you don't notice that in the film, because it's actually, you know, I told Jacob when I first got hold of him, I said, it's really like a John Sayles movie from the 70s. It's got that real sort of indie vibe that I absolutely love. I said to him, it was like John Sayles writes Starman, because that's how I felt about it.
That is perfect. That's perfect. Starman was one of the things we talked about a lot along the way because of the plot. But yeah, I think it has such a vibe because we shot it as we went along. So there was a script-ish, but we kind of stopped in these various locations throughout America, in Arizona and Utah, Palm Springs, all across America, and then sort of worked on the scenes and came up with the scenes as we were there. So it's a lot of improv. It's a lot of us figuring out what looks good in the moment. Jacob seeing something that's gorgeous and making us stand there and shoot something. There's a lot of that. So
is that a good way of working for you? Do you like doing that?
I do, because I have a writing background, a directing background, and I also started my career in television, which is very strict. You know, television is stand here, here are the lines, don't get one word wrong. So to get to do something really creative and interesting with Jacob, who I've known for 12 plus years, it was really fun to get to, you know, collaborate with a friend.
And AJ, I mean, he's just so brilliant in it.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, both of you, I mean, there's a great chemistry between you, I think. I mean, really lovely. And of course, Scott Poitras as well, who's like there.
I know, amazing.
He said originally he was going to come over, but he couldn't.
I think he's shooting, which we're very happy for him. He works all the time, so I understand. I was going to be surprised if he actually did make it over.
But it is a perfect sort of three-parter for him. I mean, it's really, really works. I mean, I love the movie because it just reminded me of, as I said, all those films I used to watch in the 70s from like, just so great, Corman films.
Oh, yeah.
That sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's all good. So do you have any particular memory of it at all, apart from, you know, some good memory?
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of, I mean, we got to go a lot of places that I had actually never been in the United States, to Monument Valley, where they shot a lot of Westerns, a lot of old Westerns, and Chaco Canyon, which is a place that is, what do you call it? It has no light pollution, and we shot there. We got permission to shoot there, and we were there really late one night, and it's just super dark because there's no light pollution. It's just us. It was so weird and eerie. So just getting to see all the Zion National Park, I'd never been there. So just all these interesting places that I don't know if I would have gotten to see if not for this. And Jacob had kind of done a road trip through there, picking out spots to go. So for me, it was just like getting to see these parts of America that I had never actually been to.
So literally, you're going to watch it tonight, though, for the very first time.
I'm going to watch it tonight for the first time in 5 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I hopefully I haven't aged too much, and people will know it's out. That's all I want to hear.
But I mean, so much has happened then since that time to now.
Yeah.
I mean, you've written Lucky, you've directed 12-Hour Shift, you've directed Torn Hearts.
Yeah.
That we're also going to show here.
Yeah.
So I mean, what is it? Is that the way you wanted your career to go? That's where you want it to go?
It is, yeah. A couple of years ago, I mean, it's funny this one is coming out because I do feel like this is one that Night Sky was one that I felt very close to, and I felt like I was really doing something that was making me happy. But a lot of the acting just wasn't for me anymore. I felt like I had kind of done what I felt like I got to do a bunch of great movies. I got to do After Midnight. I got to do The Stylist, and I just felt like I didn't know what else I wanted to do in the acting arena, and I really wanted to show what I could do that wasn't, just this, that was more this. So I wanted to do more writing and directing, and I really made a concerted effort to switch gears.
But will you still act though?
I'm not planning on it, but don't replay this tape if I ever decide. I've been kind of shying away from it. But, I have so many friends that do such amazing work. Some of who are here tonight or this weekend. And it's hard for me to say no to doing something creative because I do love doing creative stuff.
So Torn Hearts.
Yes.
I mean, where did this start from then? Let's talk about that.
This was a Blumhouse movie. So they brought it to me and they had this script and they said it's about country singers. Would you be interested in doing it? I'm originally from Texas, so that was very exciting for me. And I jumped on board and was shooting about 3 weeks after I jumped on board. So it was a very quick process and very fun. We shot in New Orleans last year.
Was it all cast already for you?
No. I brought in the cast.
Oh, okay.
So Katie Skull signed on first, and then we brought in Alexis and Abby, who play the two leads, and Joshua and Shiloh, who I've known for a million years. So yeah, we brought in the cast, did all the prep. It was very quick to cast and prep and dress this crazy house and build. We had to do a couple builds, but we were able to get it done.
Do you have a particular love of country music? Or?
I have a soft spot for it because I grew up in Texas. My dad was, old school Texas guy, so I love old country. But then also in the 90s, it's a little embarrassing. I was into country. I loved Garth Brooks and Trisha Yearwood.
Me too. I love that.
I mean, I made a playlist. I'll share my playlist with you during this. And I love old country, like the old, like 50s kind of country stuff. But then I also just have this soft spot for like 90s stuff too. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the film. I mean, if I was those two girls, I wouldn't be caught dead going into that mansion. I mean, I'm sorry.
Yes. This is the suspension of disbelief for horror movies. And it was my one thing that I was like, we have to have a reason for these women to stay at this house. Like they have to. I did not write the script. This brilliant writer, Rachel, wrote it. But I kept saying like we have to be able to sell that these women would want to stay here in this house when things were going so poorly. But I felt like the actresses really brought that to it. I felt like Abby and Alexis playing those roles, I could see in them this ambition that they had would keep them there because it would, and then by the end, of course, they're fighting against each other and they're staying there just out of
they're
spite.
completely starstruck to Dutch,
course,
obviously.
Yes,
there's that too.
Yes.
Oh God, I want to spend time with my idol.
Yes,
I do get that as well.
Yes.
So there is that sort of thing going on too.
Yes, it's like when you meet a star and then you just want to sit by them and you never want to leave, which has happened to me. And you have to learn when to go. They didn't learn when to go, I guess.
Yeah. Right, a few bits and pieces. I mean, how long did it take to shoot? Was it an easy shoot?
It was. I mean, it was during COVID, so there's a lot of regulations. We did get to shut down at one point for a COVID situation, but we shot in New Orleans, and the crew was really great. We shot for 20-something days, so it was a short shoot comparatively to a lot of things. Not compared to Night Sky, but it was a pretty easy shoot. I mean. Look, you have someone like Katie. You have these professional actors come in. It's going to be a pretty smooth ride because they know what they're doing and a really experienced crew. So it was really lovely for me to come in and have that level of experience.
There was no thought about you actually playing one of the parts?
No. And I mean, so on a 12-hour shift, I also didn't play a role. I wrote and directed and started a movie about 10, 15 years ago. And it was just too much. I feel like acting, directing, great, but when you combine them, it's just too much.
Okay.
It's too hard. And when you can have these great actresses, and I get to work with them, and I get to like help shape what they're doing, and that is one of the most fun parts to me about acting. But I just get to do it with these actors, so it kind of feels like the same thing to me.
I mean, do you hate the term scream queen? I mean, because in some sort of ways you are. I mean, I hate sort of like. Reducing it to that in a way.
No, I don't hate this. Barbara Crampton is a friend of mine, and we talk about it because I think she has a real. I think she has a love-hate relationship with it. I think I just have a love-love relationship with it because I think it's a badge of honor. I love these movies. I'm fortunate enough to be a part of a lot of really good ones, and I always want to work in genre. So I will be a scream queen director too. So I'm fine with doing both.
I mean, it always starts from somewhere. What was the very first horror film, fantasy film that you saw? You thought, "Ooh, I want to do this."
Um, that's a great question. I mean, I loved as a kid. Tremors was like one of my favorite.
That's so fun though.
Which
it?
is, and you can kind of see
It's
that.
fun,
I think
scary.
in my in my work, I feel like I always lean into the fun and try to do something a little bit wackier and a little bit more wild. And then I feel like the movie that I was like, oh, I love horror was 28 Days Later. That was like a really
a Brit film. Very good.
Yeah. Yes. Oh yeah. Yes.
Just shot down the road.
Was it really?
Yeah, you should go and visit the set.
I should. That was one that like I saw in a theater. I was a teenager. It was around the time, like I think Scream had already been out at that point, but I was just very excited to see something that felt like kind of quirky, kind of weird, kind of artsy, but on this massive theater and also had zombies. That felt very exciting to me.
What problems does a woman working in horror face? What have you actually come across that, these are the boring women in horror questions.
Yes, no, that's
which
fine.
I have to ask you.
No, feel free, feel free. I mean, it's hard because I've never been a man in horror, so I don't really know the answer to these questions. I mean, look, I think the last 5 years or so have been great for women in horror. I think women in horror it's behind the camera starting to come up and create roles for more complicated roles for women because we're behind the camera trying to create these roles. And I think there's been more space for us because of festivals that are really promoting women and trying to get our movies seen. Because we haven't, a lot of us have started later than a lot of the men, like I've had a full career as an actress and now I'm starting to be a director at age, 40. So I'm like it's just going to take a while for me to get to the level some of these other male directors have been doing it for like 10, 20 years, I think. So, I mean, I think there's been a lot of talk of women in horror, and I'm hoping that a lot of that talk doesn't end up being just lip service. Yeah.
What's in the future, Brea?
Who knows? More genre movies, more fun, horror, fun. I'm trying to do like a kind of a fun sci-fi movie right now.
Ooh.
And
keep me posted.
I will.
Now I do my sci-fi festival in Italy.
Oh.
I'll get you over.
Please let me.
Yeah,
I will.
So do one.
Okay.
Just for me.
Okay. Well,
just
for
me.
That's a great motivation.
Brea, thank you so much for
Thank you
being
for
here.
having me.
We love you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.